Today, we're embarking on an extraordinary journey that will take us across 3 continents to discover 4 destinations that transform into absolute magic during the Christmas season. Imagine this: twinkling lights reflected in mountain lakes, the aroma of mulled wine wafting through cobblestone streets, carol singers filling the air with melodies in languages you've never heard, and Christmas trees adorned with traditions that stretch back centuries. From the alpine charm of South America's mountains to the sun-drenched beaches of the Southern Hemisphere, from the innovative spirit of Scandinavia to the vibrant energy of Colombia's Andes, we're about to discover how different cultures celebrate the most wonderful time of the year. These aren't just ordinary holiday destinations. Each location we'll explore today offers a unique blend of geography, culture, and history that creates an unforgettable Christmas experience. We'll walk through European-inspired villages nestled in Brazilian highlands, explore a city that rose from darkness to become South America's most innovative metropolis, stand at the meeting point of 2 mighty oceans beneath Africa's iconic mountain, and cycle through one of the world's happiest countries where Hygge meets holiday cheer. But here's a question for you: what makes a perfect Christmas destination? Is it the snow and cold, or can magic happen under the summer sun? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. So before we step onto our first cobblestone street, let me ask you a thought-provoking question to kick off our interactive journey. As we travel through these 4 distinct cultures, which one do you predict will offer the most surprising blend of history and modern innovation? Drop your answer in the comments below. If these stories ignite your desire to travel, smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Now, let's begin our festive journey. Gramado, Brazil. Welcome to Gramado, a slice of the Swiss Alps magically transporting to the heart of southern Brazil. Nestled in the Serra Mountains of Rio Grande do Sul state, approximately 120 kilometers northeast of Porto Alegre, Gramado sits at an elevation of 850 meters above sea level. This picturesque town is cradled by rolling hills covered in araucaria pine forests and surrounded by stunning natural landscapes, including waterfalls, lakes, and valleys that seem to have been painted by an artist's brush. The town experiences a subtropical highland climate, which means it actually gets cold in winter, a rarity in Brazil. When December arrives, temperatures range from 15 to 25 degrees Celsius during the day, perfect for celebrating Christmas without the sweltering heat typical of most Brazilian cities. The region's unique topography, shaped by ancient volcanic activity and centuries of erosion, creates a microclimate that feels distinctly European, which is exactly why early settlers felt so at home here. Gramado's history begins in the mid-1800s when European immigrants primarily from Germany and Italy, arrived seeking new opportunities and escaping economic hardship in their homelands. These pioneers brought with them their architectural styles, culinary traditions, languages, and most importantly, their Christmas customs. They cleared the forests, built charming Alpine-style homes with steep roofs and decorative woodwork, established vineyards, and created a community that maintained strong ties to their European heritage. By the early 1900s, Gramado had developed into a distinctive cultural enclave where German was spoken as commonly as Portuguese, and where European traditions were preserved with remarkable dedication. The culture of Gramado today is a beautiful tapestry woven from these immigrant roots. Walking through the town, you'll notice the meticulous attention to detail in the architecture. Every building seems to tell a story of Bavaria or the Italian Alps. The local cuisine reflects this heritage too, with fondue restaurants, chocolatiers crafting Swiss-style confections, and cafes serving Black Forest cake and Apfelstrudel. The people of Gramado take immense pride in their European ancestry, and this pride manifests in how they maintain their traditions, from folk dancing to traditional music festivals throughout the year. But what truly sets Gramado apart is Natal Luz, literally Christmas of Light, Brazil's largest and most spectacular Christmas festival. This tradition began in 1986 when local businessman Nestor Ludwig had a vision to create something that would put Gramado on the map and extend the tourist season beyond the winter months. What started as a modest celebration has evolved into a 3-month extravaganza running from November through January, transforming the entire town into a Christmas wonderland that attracts over 1.5 million visitors annually. During Natal Luz, Gramado becomes a theatrical stage where fantasy and reality blend seamlessly. The main street, Avenida Borges de Medeiros, is adorned with millions of twinkling lights, creating illuminated tunnels and displays that stretch for blocks. The centerpiece is the parade called O Gran Desfile de Natal, featuring giant floats, hundreds of performers, dancers, and characters from Christmas stories parading through streets lined with thousands of spectators. But the festival offers so much more. Nativitaten, a spectacular musical production telling the story of Christ's birth with world-class performers, choreography, and special effects. The illuminated Rua Coberta, covered street, a European-style walking street that becomes a magical gallery of light. Enchanted village setups where children can meet Santa Claus and his elves. Ice skating rinks, a novelty in Brazil. And Christmas markets selling handcrafted ornaments, local chocolates, and mulled wine. What makes Gramado's Christmas celebration particularly special is how it combines Brazilian warmth and hospitality with European Christmas traditions. Unlike a European Christmas, where you might be bundled in heavy coats, here you can enjoy the festivities in comfortable weather, perhaps even dining outdoors at one of the many restaurants serving traditional Christmas meals. The atmosphere is incredibly family-friendly, safe, and welcoming, with locals greeting visitors with genuine smiles and sharing stories about their town's history and traditions. This German-Italian-influenced town in Brazil's southern mountains has created South America's most elaborate Christmas celebration, combining European alpine charm with Brazilian hospitality in a festival that transforms the entire town into a 3-month Christmas wonderland, proving that Christmas magic transcends geography and can flourish even in the Southern Hemisphere's summer season. To Medellín, Colombia. Located in the Ibarra Valley in Colombia's Andes Mountains, Medellín sits at 1,495 meters above sea level, cradled by mountains that rise to over 2,500 meters on either side. This dramatic geography creates a natural amphitheater where the city of 2.5 million people spreads across the valley floor and climbs the surrounding slopes in a cascade of neighborhoods and innovation. The city runs roughly north to south along the Medellín River, with the valley measuring about 10 kilometers wide. The elevation gives Medellín its famous year-round spring-like climate, with average temperatures hovering between 18 and 28 degrees Celsius throughout the year, never too hot, never too cold. The surrounding mountains not only provide stunning views from nearly every corner of the city, but also create distinct microclimates in different neighborhoods. The lush tropical vegetation that covers these mountainsides creates a green embrace around the urban core, a constant reminder of nature's presence even in this bustling metropolis. Founded in 1616 by Spanish colonizers in the Ibarra Valley, the settlement grew slowly until coffee cultivation in the 19th century brought wealth and development. By the early 20th century, Medellín had become Colombia's industrial powerhouse, with textile manufacturing earning it the nickname Manchester of South America. The city's entrepreneurial spirit attracted migrants from rural areas, and by the 1950s, Medellín was Colombia's second-largest city, known for its industriousness, conservative values, and strong work ethic. What happened next is nothing short of miraculous. After Escobar's death in 1993, civic leaders, politicians, educators, and ordinary citizens decided enough was enough. They embarked on an ambitious social transformation focusing on education, public transportation, and social inclusion. The city invested heavily in its poorest neighborhoods, building libraries, schools, and parks where violence once reigned. The metro system, inaugurated in 1995, became more than transportation. It became a symbol of civic pride and order. The innovative metro cable gondola system connected hillside communities previously isolated by poverty and violence to the city center, providing residents access to opportunities they'd never had. This transformation story is essential to understanding Medellin's Christmas celebration, Alumbrados Navideños, Christmas lights, which began in 1955 but took on profound significance during the city's darkest years. When violence peaked in the early 1990s, civic leaders insisted on continuing the Christmas lights tradition. It was an act of defiance, a refusal to let terror extinguish hope. As security improved in the 2000s, city officials dramatically expanded the celebration, investing millions of dollars to create increasingly elaborate displays. This wasn't frivolous spending. It was strategic, symbolic investment in joy, in reclaiming public spaces, and in showing residents and the world that Medellin was rising from the ashes. Today, Medellin's Christmas lights are considered the world's most spectacular, running from early December through early January. The celebration isn't concentrated in one area, but spreads across the entire city, democratizing joy and ensuring every neighborhood participates. The centerpiece is the Medellin River Park, where the river that once represented a dividing line between East and West Medellin has been transformed into a 17-kilometer linear park. During Christmas, this park becomes an illuminated wonderland with massive displays featuring millions of LED lights. Recent years have seen themes celebrating Colombian biodiversity, with giant illuminated animals, flowers, and natural landscapes. The lights aren't just decorative, they tell stories about Colombian culture, history, and values. The Alumbrados extend throughout the city. Traditional neighborhoods like Envigado and Sabaneta create their own displays. Shopping districts like El Poblado compete to have the most creative decorations. Even the cable cars are illuminated, creating rivers of light flowing up the mountainsides. What's particularly moving is how communities in former conflict zones now create their own displays, transforming spaces where violence once occurred into gathering places for families. In Comuna 13, the neighborhood that was ground zero for cartel violence, residents now welcome tens of thousands of tourists who come to see the urban art, the escalators, and the Christmas displays, a transformation almost impossible to comprehend without experiencing it firsthand. The celebration includes concerts, cultural events, and markets throughout the city. But perhaps most important is what the lights represent to Medellin's residents, proof that darkness can be overcome, that their city chose light over shadow, hope over despair, community over violence. When families walk along the river on a warm December evening, surrounded by millions of twinkling lights and the sounds of laughter and music, they're not just celebrating Christmas. They're celebrating survival, transformation, and the power of collective will to change destiny. This Colombian city in the Andes Mountains transformed itself from the world's most dangerous city into a global innovation leader, and its spectacular Christmas lights celebration represents not just holiday festivity, but a powerful symbol of urban redemption, proving that communities can overcome even the darkest periods through strategic investment in social equity, public space, and most importantly, hope. Town, South Africa. Africa to Cape Town, a city where two oceans meet, where a flat-topped mountain stands sentinel over one of the world's most beautiful cities, and where Christmas arrives in the warmth of the Southern Hemisphere's summer. Cape Town occupies one of the most spectacular geographical settings of any city on Earth. Located on the Cape Peninsula on South Africa's southwestern coast, the city is cradled between the iconic Table Mountain and its surrounding peaks to the south and east, and the cold waters of the Atlantic Ocean to the west and north. The city sits at the meeting point of the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, specifically at Cape Point and Cape Agulhas, where the cool Benguela current from the Antarctic meets the warm Agulhas current from the tropics. The geography of Cape Town is dominated by Table Mountain, a 1,085-meter flat-topped mountain that has become the city's most recognizable landmark and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This mountain is part of the Cape Fold mountain range, formed over 250 million years ago through tectonic forces that pushed and folded layers of rock. The flat top is actually a plateau approximately 3 kilometers long, covered in unique fynbos vegetation found nowhere else on Earth. The mountain creates dramatic microclimates. The famous tablecloth of clouds that spills over the summit occurs when moist air from the ocean is forced upward, condensing into a remarkable natural phenomenon. The Cape Peninsula extends southward for about 75 kilometers, creating a series of stunning beaches, bays, and coastal mountains. The city itself spreads from the city bowl, the area directly below Table Mountain, around the mountain to the Atlantic seaboard with its magnificent beaches, and across the Cape Flats to False Bay on the eastern side. The area has been inhabited for thousands of years by the Khoisan people, hunter-gatherers and pastoralists who left evidence of their presence in rock art and shell middens along the coast. European contact began in 1488 when Portuguese explorer Bartolomeu Dias first rounded the Cape, but permanent European settlement started in 1652 when the Dutch East India Company established a supply station under Jan van Riebeeck. This settlement, initially just a refreshment station for ships traveling between Europe and Asia, gradually expanded, bringing European colonizers, enslaved people from Madagascar, Indonesia, and other parts of Africa, and later, indentured laborers from India and other Asian countries. The British took control of the Cape Colony in 1806, bringing English language, laws, and customs. Throughout the 19th century, Cape Town grew as a significant port city, becoming the legislative capital when the Union of South Africa was formed in 1910. But the city's 20th century history is inseparable from apartheid, the system of racial segregation and white minority rule that lasted from 1948 to 1994. During apartheid, Cape Town's communities were forcibly segregated. Christmas in Cape Town is decidedly different from the Northern Hemisphere stereotype. It falls during South Africa's summer holidays, when schools are closed and families head to the coast for vacation. The weather in December is warm to hot, with temperatures ranging from 18 to 28 degrees Celsius, perfect for beach celebrations. The Cape's Mediterranean climate means December is typically dry and sunny, ideal for outdoor festivities. This creates a unique Christmas culture where traditional elements like Christmas trees and festive meals exist alongside beach trips, outdoor braais, barbecues, and water activities. The Christmas season in Cape Town typically begins in late November, when the city centre is decorated with festive lights along major streets like Adderley Street and in shopping districts like the V&A waterfront. The V&A waterfront, Cape Town's most popular tourist destination, transforms into a festive wonderland with a large Christmas tree, decorations throughout the complex, Christmas markets featuring local artisans, carol concerts, and special events for children, including visits to Santa. The festive atmosphere extends to neighborhoods throughout the city, with homes decorated with lights and Christmas trees visible through windows. One of the most distinctive Cape Town Christmas traditions is the Kaapse Klops, also known as the Cape Town Minstrel Carnival. This vibrant street parade takes place on New Year's Day, January 2nd, because January 1st is traditionally a day of rest and has roots going back to the emancipation of slaves in the 1830s. When enslaved people were freed, they celebrated their newfound freedom, and this celebration evolved into the annual carnival. Participants, called klops, dress in bright, colorful satin costumes, paint their faces, and parade through the streets playing banjos, guitars, and drums, singing and dancing in a style that blends African, Indonesian, American, and European influences. The carnival is controversial and complex. Some criticize aspects of it as culturally insensitive, while others celebrate it as authentic Cape-colored working-class culture and an important expression of historical identity and resistance. Christmas celebrations in Cape Town also reflect the city's religious diversity. Christian communities attend candlelight services on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day at historic churches like St. George's Cathedral, where Archbishop Desmond Tutu once preached against apartheid. Many families attend outdoor carol services at venues like Kirstenbosch Botanical Gardens, where you can sit on the lawns beneath Table Mountain as the sun sets and sing carols under the stars. The Muslim community, significant in Cape Town, doesn't celebrate Christmas religiously, but often participates in the festive atmosphere and secular celebrations. African traditional celebrations also occur during this time, as December is part of the summer season when harvest festivals and community gatherings are common. Food is central to Cape Town's Christmas celebrations, typically featuring a braai with various meats, seafood, particularly West Coast crayfish and snook, a local fish, traditional babuti, yellow rice, and malva pudding for dessert. Many families combine traditional European Christmas dishes like roast turkey with local favorites. Because it's summer, cold desserts, salads, and fresh seasonal fruits feature prominently. The meal is often enjoyed outdoors, taking advantage of the beautiful weather. The beaches become central to Christmas celebrations in Cape Town. Camps Bay, Clifton, and Muizenberg beaches are packed with families on Christmas Day and during the holiday season. It's common to see people swimming, playing beach games, and having picnics while wearing Santa hats, a surreal sight for Northern Hemisphere visitors. Table Mountain National Park remains open, and hiking the mountain on Christmas morning has become a tradition for many residents and visitors, offering spectacular views over the city and ocean. The mountain's cable car operates special hours during the holiday season, making it accessible for those who prefer not to hike. Shopping is also part of the Cape Town Christmas experience, with major shopping centers like Canal Walk and Cavendish Square offering extended hours, special promotions, and festive entertainment. The emphasis is on family time, outdoor activities, and celebrating in the abundant sunshine, a reminder that Christmas spirit isn't dependent on snow and cold, but can flourish under an African summer sun with Table Mountain as your backdrop and the Atlantic Ocean as your swimming pool. This spectacularly beautiful South African city at the meeting of two oceans celebrates Christmas during the summer season, blending diverse cultural traditions from African, European, Muslim, and Cape Malay communities into unique festivities that combine traditional Christmas elements with beach celebrations, outdoor braais, and the colorful Kaap's Klops Carnival, all set against the dramatic backdrop of Table Mountain and the stunning Cape Peninsula. Copenhagen, Denmark. Located on the eastern coast of Zealand, Denmark's largest island, Copenhagen sits at the narrowest point of the Øresund Strait, which separates Denmark from Sweden. This strategic geographical position, where the Baltic Sea meets the North Sea via the narrow straits between Denmark and Sweden, has shaped Copenhagen's history as a vital maritime and commercial center for over 800 years. The geography of Copenhagen is characterized by its waterfront location, relatively flat terrain, an extensive network of harbors, canals, and waterways that give the city its distinctive character. The original city center occupies a small island called Slotsholmen, where Christiansborg Palace now stands, surrounded by the historic districts of Indre by Inner City. The city has expanded across several islands and peninsulas, connected by bridges that create a unique urban fabric where water is ever present. The Øresund Bridge, completed in 2000, now connects Copenhagen to Malmö, Sweden, creating a binational metropolitan region. The city's topography is pancake flat. The highest point in Copenhagen is barely 90 meters above sea level, making it perfect for cycling, which has become integral to Copenhagen's identity and daily life. The climate of Copenhagen is oceanic, characterized by mild winters and cool summers, with significant maritime influence that moderates temperature extremes. December temperatures typically range from 0 to 5 degrees Celsius, occasionally dipping below freezing. Snow can occur but isn't guaranteed, creating a beautiful backdrop when it does arrive, but not the relentless winter conditions found further north or inland. What Copenhagen lacks in extreme cold, it compensates for with short days. During late December around the winter solstice, the sun rises around 8:30 a.m. and sets by 3:30 p.m., creating extended periods of atmospheric twilight and darkness that make the city's Christmas lights and cozy indoor spaces particularly inviting. City's name comes from Copenhagen, meaning merchant's harbor, reflecting its commercial origins. The first fortifications were constructed in the 12th century, and by 1254, Copenhagen received its city charter. Throughout the medieval period, Copenhagen grew as a regional center of trade, particularly for herring fishing and commerce across the Baltic Sea. In 1417, Copenhagen was designated the capital of Denmark, cementing its political importance. The following centuries saw Copenhagen survive wars, devastating fires, and plague, each time rebuilding and growing stronger. The 17th century brought significant development under King Christian IV, who commissioned many of the beautiful Renaissance buildings that still define Copenhagen's character, including the Rosenborg Castle and the Round Tower. The 18th and 19th centuries saw Copenhagen become a major European city, though not without challenges. The British bombardment of Copenhagen in 1807 during the Napoleonic Wars destroyed much of the city and resulted in Denmark losing Norway. The 19th century brought industrialization, significant urban expansion, and the development of Copenhagen's distinctive architectural style. The harbor front was developed, railways were built, and Copenhagen began its transformation into a modern European capital. Danish culture is characterized by several distinctive features. First is the concept of hygge, which becomes especially important during dark winter months. Hygge isn't just about physical comfort, it's a philosophy of enjoying simple pleasures, creating warmth and intimacy, and finding contentment in everyday moments. Think candlelight, warm blankets, good company, comfort food, and the art of being present. Second is Denmark's commitment to design and aesthetics. Danish design, characterized by simplicity, functionality, and beauty, has influenced the world through brands like Bang & Olufsen, Georg Jensen, and furniture designers like Arne Jacobsen and Hans Wegner. Third is the Danish emphasis on work-life balance, social equality, and sustainability. Copenhagen is a city of cyclists. Over 60% of residents commute by bicycle daily, a cultural choice that reflects environmental values and practical urban design. Fourth is the Danish concept of janteloven, law of Jant, a social code emphasizing modesty, equality, and community over individual achievement, which creates a culture less focused on outward displays of wealth and more on collective well-being. Christmas in Copenhagen, or Jul as it's called in Danish, is perhaps when Hygge reaches its peak expression. The celebration blends ancient Nordic pagan traditions, particularly the winter solstice festival of Yule, with Christian customs and distinctly Danish practices. The season officially begins on the first Sunday of Advent, 4 Sundays before Christmas, when families light the first candle on their Advent wreaths and begin preparations. From mid-November through early January, Copenhagen transforms into a winter wonderland. That embodies every romantic notion of a Scandinavian Christmas. The centerpiece of Copenhagen's Christmas season is Tivoli Gardens, the world-famous amusement park in the heart of the city that opened in 1843 and has become an integral part of Copenhagen's identity. During the Christmas season, Tivoli undergoes a spectacular transformation. The gardens are decorated with millions of twinkling lights, creating a magical atmosphere enhanced by the park's historic architecture and romantic landscaping. Christmas trees of all sizes are placed throughout, decorated in traditional Danish style with woven paper hearts, flags, and white lights. The park features traditional Christmas market stalls selling Danish handicrafts, including woven decorations, candle holders, Christmas ornaments, and traditional treats like æbleskiver, round pancakes dusted with powdered sugar, gløgg, Danish mulled wine with almonds and raisins, and flæskesteg sandwiches, roast pork with crispy crackling and red cabbage. Live entertainment includes carol concerts, theatrical performances, and even ice skating shows. The rides operate with special Christmas themes, and the overall atmosphere is one of enchantment, romance, and pure hygge. Beyond Tivoli, Copenhagen's streets and squares host numerous Christmas markets. Nyhavn, the iconic 17th-century waterfront with its colorful townhouses and wooden ships, becomes particularly atmospheric with Christmas decorations, lights, and market stalls lining the canal. Stroget, one of Europe's longest pedestrian shopping streets, is elaborately decorated, and high-end stores compete to create the most impressive window displays. Smaller, more intimate markets appear in neighborhood squares throughout the city, each with its own character and local crafts. Another distinctive aspect of Copenhagen's Christmas is the julefrokost, Christmas lunch, a tradition of workplace and social gatherings throughout December, where groups enjoy elaborate meals featuring traditional Danish open-faced sandwiches, smørrebrød, pickled herring, liver pâté, roast meats, cheese, and copious amounts of beer and aquavit. These gatherings, often raucous and extending late into the night, balance the cozy family focus with communal celebration and serve as a way for Danes to mark the season with colleagues and friends. Sustainability is woven throughout Copenhagen's Christmas celebrations. The emphasis on bicycle transportation continues even in winter, with bike lanes cleared of snow before car roads. Many decorations are reusable or made from natural materials. The focus on local crafts and foods at Christmas markets supports small businesses and reduces environmental impact. Even Santa Claus arrives at Tivoli on public transportation rather than in a gas-guzzling sleigh. This integration of environmental consciousness into tradition shows how Copenhagen manages to honor the past while building a sustainable future. This Danish capital celebrates Christmas by elevating Hygge, the art of cozy contentment, to its highest form, combining ancient Nordic traditions with modern Scandinavian values in celebrations centered around Tivoli Gardens' enchanted Christmas transformation, traditional family rituals, Christmas markets throughout the historic city, and a cultural emphasis on creating warm, intimate moments over commercial excess, all while embracing the winter darkness as an opportunity for candlelight. Connection and reflection. We've journeyed from Gramado's alpine-style Christmas wonderland in the Brazilian mountains, where European immigrant traditions have created South America's most elaborate Natal Luz celebration, to Medellín's spectacular Alumbrados navideños, where millions of lights symbolize a city's triumph over darkness and transformation from violence to hope. We've explored Cape Town's unique summer Christmas at the tip of Africa, where diverse cultures blend traditions while celebrating under the shadow of Table Mountain with the Atlantic Ocean as a backdrop. And we concluded in Copenhagen, where the Danish concept of Hygge transforms the cold, dark winter into the coziest, most magical season of all. Now here's my question for you. Which of these 4 destinations resonates most with your idea of the perfect Christmas, and why? Is it the European-style celebration in unexpected South American warmth, the lights that symbolize transformation and hope, the beach Christmas that breaks all Northern Hemisphere stereotypes, or the cozy Danish Hygge that embraces winter darkness? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear which destination captured your imagination. If you enjoyed this journey through 4 festive destinations, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our travel adventures and discoveries. Give this video a thumbs up if it inspired you, and share it with friends and family who love travel and Christmas as much as you do. Your support helps us continue creating content that opens windows to the world's wonders.